The Spin-Off Podcast Network.
Are you making the most of your KiwiSaver investment? Generate is an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of strong long-term performance. Making a smart decision now could add tens of thousands of dollars by the time you reach retirement. Book a no-obligation chat with a Generate KiwiSaver advisor today at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/get-advice. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
I'm Toby Manhire, and this is Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government, a podcast in 6 parts.
Doesn't give my opponents much time to run up to an election, does it?
This nation is at risk.
What do you think you're up to now, you perverted little liar?
I could smell the uranium on it as you lean towards it.
The most radical overhaul in the history of New Zealand's administration.
Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government, made with the support of New Zealand On Air. Listen now on The Spin-Off or wherever you get your podcasts. Tēnā koutou katoa, this is Toby Manhire with an episode of Gone by Lunchtime. This is drawn from our epic 12-hour Gone by Lunchtime Megapod. It's the first part of it in which we discuss the first leaders debate on One News. There's much more of this sort of goodness on your Gone by Lunchtime feed. Kia ora. I don't know.
Whatever anyone says to me. Bonjour, bonjour.
Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Toby Manhire and welcome to Gone by Lunchtime, the Endurance Edition. As I speak, it is 9 a.m. on Wednesday, September 20, and there are just 24 days until Election Day 2023. There are 12 days, Ben and Annabelle, until the orange signs start springing up around the villages of New Zealand. To do advance voting. There's 12 hours to go until this podcast is finished.
I think it started off strong. We just need to coast from here.
Well, that's the main thing. You kind of get a burst of energy at the outset, and then you just carry through to the finish line.
Set the tone early. You say you go to a party, you tell a joke, everyone laughs, you leave. This is the same thing. You just we'll say something funny, then we'll just leave. People will be like, oh, they're just taking a break or something.
Yeah,
or even 1/2 hours later.
I'm pretty sure that's what he actually did at my wedding party. Come and tell a joke. And
you want to talk about that?
Leave straight
You want
away.
to talk about your wedding party?
Go there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is one of the running sores in the what would otherwise be a friendship of the people on this podcast. That Annabelle didn't invite us to her wedding party.
No, she didn't invite us to her wedding party. She didn't invite us to her wedding.
Oh.
The important bit.
I didn't invite anyone to my wedding, not even my mother or my in-laws. But you guys were both invited to my wedding party, but only one of you turned up.
Oh.
That was me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, we've got plenty
I told
of
a
time
joke and I
today.
left.
If you'd like to,
Exactly.
if you want to renew your vows, we've got heaps time today. We
Okay.
could do a whole ceremony in here.
2:45.
Can we make that
that's
happen?
like-
My
Okay.
husband's in Prague. It'll be hard.
You what now? A marriage ceremony? Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of other stuff. I'm going to run through the schedule actually in a second. We're live streaming, and so hello to those of you who are watching on the live stream. We're also going to be slicing and dicing and parceling this up into podcasts on the stream. So if you're listening to that on a podcast in the future, hello also to you. What is this thing? What is the Megapod? Is it a smorgasbord of politicians, pundits, and beloved spin-off personalities? Is it a festival of electoral democracy? Is it a celebration of people who love to do and to talk about politics? Is it my midlife crisis playing out across 12 excruciating hours? Will it involve so many awkward silences we could stick it on a stage and call it Waiting for Podo? No? No? That's good.
I don't get it.
No? Okay.
There's a ding, one awkward silence.
Right?
We should can we get a counter?
Oh no, he has
That would
actually
be-
got some musical. He's got a new music board.
I've got a soundboard now.
So what can you?
What would it be for an awkward silence? Maybe.
All right, is it
Yeah.
crickets?
Crickets.
Yeah, great.
Crickets.
They're
Okay.
quite
Just to fill the space.
unusual sounding crickets, but yeah.
Yeah, the pod team used this adventure as an excuse to purchase a new soundboard, and they will now be playing at festivals around the country. Give one of those pew pew.
I love that. I want you to do that one every time I say something.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Please don't do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so what are we going to do today? Among other things, we're going to have a bunch of regular questions. We're going to try and investigate the state of the national and individual mojo level. We're going to do a sort of deep dive into mojo.
Check.
Yep. We're going to talk a bit about political TV. We're going to guess at the turnout. And if there's time, we'll talk about policies and campaigns and all of that sort of stuff. Killer lineup, starting with Annabelle Lee Mather. Hi, Annabelle.
Kia ora.
And Ben Thomas. Kia ora, Ben.
Kia ora.
Ooh.
We're going to talk in this first hour when we get to it after I run through this epic schedule about the debate last night, which a lot of people would have been tuned into. Maybe also a bit about Angry Fence Man. He's a close personal friend of yours now, I think, Ben, or more like your spirit animal.
I'm sorry, who's Angry Fence Man? Who are we talking about? Is it that guy Mokoraka?
Koraka, what's his name?
Is it Mokoraka, the last name?
Yeah.
Is he the dude?
Mokoraka, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mokoraka.
Carl Mokoraka.
Mokoraka, yeah.
He's a Vision NZ candidate. He's the room in an unsettling dream that you don't want to enter. He's a sort of dim figure, kind of in every photograph that you have, but sort of in the background.
Like Slender Man kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Ben has written a very powerful and affecting prose poem about Angry Fence Man, which you can read on spinoff.co.nz.
In a way, he's a new feature of the election. In a way, he's always been with us.
He's right here now,
yeah,
in a very real sense.
I went to school with some mokarakas. They're very, very lovely, whānau, good people. I don't know him, obviously, but I know some of his relations. Good.
Shout out to the mokarakas if they're watching.
Yeah.
If they're amongst the team, have we got a count?
How many thousands of people are watching us at the moment?
How many thousands?
Yeah.
Loads.
We got 66 people at the moment. There's a running thread of what looks like current and former spin-off staff members who are in the live chat.
Are the Mokarakas a large family?
They are.
Maybe we should send out the...
Yeah, there are no Mokarakas in
It's like when I worked for the NBR, one of the first things that I was meant to do, one of the first tasks I got was compiling the new appointments page, which is, that page in physical newspapers, and I think they still have it in the Business Herald, where it sort of says, so-and-so is the new sort of senior Newland sales manager of, this mid-sized listed company.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was just like a big wank. And the editor said, this is one of the most important pages in the newspaper because everyone who is mentioned buys a copy for $10.
Right. Yeah.
And... if let's just start talking about some other people who can bring in audience.
We'll also talk maybe a bit about the campaign launch, which that links in with, and there's a new poll in Te Tai Hauāuru, which we might touch on.
Yeah, and a debate on Māori TV.
Okay, so we'll do that. But I'm going to first, if you will indulge me, I'm going to read through all the bits and bobs that we're going to do today. So you might want to just have a cup of tea. So that's kind of. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome to interject along the way.
No, you
make suggestions for questions. Okay. 10 a.m. after the Gone By Lunchtime Classic wraps up, we've got in here Mad Chapman, Duncan Grieve, and Anna Rafferty Connell for more post-debate chat. Some of us were in the room. Some of us were watching on the TV. Some of us were.
Duncan Grieve's always trying to get on Gone By Lunchtime, eh?
Well, yeah. It's
his dream.
He's going to be on it more than once today. Ben wants to be on the Real Pod too, so do I.
I want to be on the Real Pod.
Well, you can be on the Real Pod.
I'm insulted that they haven't called me in as the Kardashians expert.
We'll do some. There's an hour of the Real Pod later on. You can join that. You're very welcome to join that. Did you see Duncan on the TV last night on the debate?
No.
He got a bit of airtime. There was in the studio audience. Not in any unexpected.
He wasn't disguised Carl Mokoraka like as a minimum wage waitress.
So Carl Mokoraka was outside with a sign, and then that was obviously quite a relief to the people inside TVNZ because they could see him out there.
He was just downstream from the debt monster from the Taxpayers Union.
Just down the road from the debt monster, and they were scanning everyone on the way in. It was very, very high security level, and you can understand why. But I thought maybe that's the the most magnificent disguise that Mokaraka has achieved yet. He's got someone else to perform him outside, and then when the debate kicks off, Jess Much Mackay will rip off her face like in Mission Impossible, and there he is.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Anyway, 10:30. Michael Wood, MP for Mount Roskill, until recently a senior minister, is in the studio to discuss the campaign. At 11 a.m, Debbie Ngaringwa Peka, co-leader of Te Pāti Māori.
Cool.
That's a good get.
Yeah, that is a good
should
get.
They're turning
should be
down a
on the
lot
phone.
of. They're turning down a lot of appearances.
Well, let's hope that she's on the phone at 11 a.m. Debbie,
She's
if you want
coming
to
on the phone.
She's on the
She's
phone.
joining by the phone. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think she's out in the electorate.
Yeah,
probably.
campaigning and whatnot,
Yeah,
probably.
We'll talk about
I
that poll.
reckon.
At 11:30, an Auckland Central debate with Chloe Swarbrick, Mahesh Muralidhar and Oscar Sims. That'll be fun. At noon...
We're going to bring in an extra chair for that.
Oh, we need an extra chair. Okay, thank you, Ben. Just write that
Can
down.
someone make a note for
make a note.
Extra chair. Thank you. At noon, the Green Party co-leader James Shaw is coming in. At 12:30 p.m, noted political commentator Lara Greaves.
Oh, yes, she's so good.
She's cool.
Yeah.
At 1 p.m, the high-flying National MP and education spokesperson Erica Stanford is in here.
Critical fave.
Fancy.
1:30, Robert Patman on the election and international affairs. At 2 p.m,
Who's who?
Yeah, I didn't want to be rude.
he's one of the most interesting and smartest academics on foreign policy.
Oh, good.
And
That sounds great.
What's his
be
name?
good to have Robert Patman.
Well, I'll
from
be
Otago University.
tuning in at 2 p.
Well, you'll have it on the whole.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'll have it
you'll-
on the whole time.
1:30,
Yeah.
that is the
1:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hasn't been much foreign policy, or barely any foreign policy discussion in this election so far. But
I want to
We're
know
going
what
to
the Māori
remedy
Party
that
will do in the
along
event
with
of the
everybody
invasion of
else.
Taiwan. In terms of
what else? Oh, 2 o'clock.
Winston Peters will say it's an attack on the homeland, and so we need to defend it. We need to get the territorials out.
Wait, so just Taiwan, though,
Ron
not
Mark
China.
will be flying over it.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, we're going to do like a whistle-stop tour of the kind of battleground electorates, the hot seats, as we're calling them on the site, with a group of my colleagues, Shanti Matthias, Stuart Salmon-Lunn, Charlotte Muru-Lanning, and Joel McManus. That'll be fun.
What
They've
are
been
they?
doing some really good reporting.
They have.
What are
on
they?
the spinoff.co.nz.
They have some really good stuff. Yeah, I agree.
What are your hot seats?
Well, you can tune in at 2 p.m. to hear that. They'll go through them, you know. I mean, don't want to waste people's time, and they want to hear more from you about the debates. It's already 9:10. Sorry. At
Only 50 minutes to go. Come on, Keek.
At 3 o'clock, Deputy Leader of the ACT Party and Ben Thomas's former colleague, Brooke Van Velden, is in the studio.
Another huge get.
We tried...
She's barely been leaving the electorate with the trench warfare that's
Yeah, that's
happening
right.
there.
Well, I invited Simon O'Connor on. He wasn't available any part of today, so I will be playing the role of Simon O'Connor.
Wow.
I've been doing a lot of work.
I've often said that you're gone by lunchtime, Simon O'Connor.
Thank you.
I really like Simon O'Connor. It's a shame he couldn't come. That would have been a good.
Well, I agree.
That would have been a good
to have
slot.
him. It's,
But it'll still be a great slot with
Yeah.
Brooke Van Velden.
Any questions for Brooke, or any suggested lines that I could perform in my impersonation of Simon O'Connor?
No.
Okay. 3:30. Ben Mackay, the dashing Tasmanian.
Another great get.
He's Australian reporter in the press gallery for Australian Associated Press, and keen to talk to him both about his impressions of the campaign here, but also there's another vote on October 14, the Australian Voice referendum.
And this is a huge time for Ben because I mean he's been a sports reporter in the past, and so
He loves the sport.
he's got not just October 14 here, October 14 in Australia with the Voice referendum. He's got the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup the same weekend. Who knows what will be happening in the NRL?
Wow.
Oh wait, no, it might be over by then, is it?
I have no idea.
No, it might be that. Might be the final weekend.
Cricket
I don't know.
World
Oh, no,
Cup
you're
will be
probably
underway.
right. Wow.
It's just everything's
He's going to
everything's happening.
explode with yeah.
And he's got to cover it all within 10 minutes of it happening for Wire Service AAP.
What else? 4 p.m. There's still plenty of time to go. 4 p.m. This is ridiculous. At 4 p.m., Andrew Geddes, the articulate, interesting expert on all matters to do with electoral law and the rest, is going to be with us. 4:30 p.m., Grant Robertson is going to be.
Really? In person?
No,
What
not
a
on person. On
fancy
phone.
fancy.
On the phone. But that's fine.
Even on the phone's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Why don't we just turn off video for it and just let people sort of imagine in the theatre of their mind that you're in the same room?
Oh no, I think we're going to put cards up for that sort of thing, right? I hear when we've got, and you've done like animated thing.
Yeah. Great.
Production values out the
Not
gate
animated
on this
thing, but
live stream.
It'll look cool. Yeah, thanks to I hear and Jane and Samuel and Isaiah for making all that work. At 4:50, Ruff Mungie is going to be on the phone too.
Great. Terrific.
That'll be good. Looking forward to talking to him.
See what Top's been up to.
At 5 p.m, have you guys watched any of the Youth Wings series we've done?
No.
No, not yet.
No. They're really
I'm
good.
saving it up.
They're really good, and I really heartily endorse them to everyone. I think all the episodes are up now, and the debate that we recorded at the Auckland Town Hall goes up tomorrow. But a lot of people have asked over the course of doing the second series, what happened to the people from the first series is what they ask. They do. And so we've invited a couple of them in. Felix and Ariana coming in to the studio at 5 o'clock to just talk about anything they like at all.
Just
about
life.
About, you know, that
Growing
kind
up.
of the 3 years since
Coming
they
of age in New
were
Zealand.
members of Youth Wings. Anyway, go and watch that. Not now. Stay on the live stream. Or in the podcast if that's what you're listening to. At 5:30, Ollie Ness from Policy.nz is coming on. Policy.nz, another incredible tool, thing to do, look at, in the service of democracy. Policy.nz, really good. From 6 o'clock, going to have an hour with Bernard Hickey. Just thought it would be really just like a really deep dive.
What do you think
into
he'll
the
talk about?
Soul of Bernard Hickey. Well, I want to talk to him about Bernard Hickey.
Beautiful.
I want to talk about the
man,
the myth, the machine, and the monster that lurks inside him. I think we'll eventually get there. An hour.
An hour? You'll get there in an hour.
He's really excited. I was on a call with him at 6:30 this
I'm
morning.
excited too.
Yeah,
I'm
really looking forward
genuinely
to it.
excited about it.
Yeah.
I think he's a fascinating guy, like incredibly smart, incredibly impassioned, incredibly authentic, kind of a bit crazy.
Very tall.
Also tall.
Is he?
Yeah, he's
real
really
tall.
No,
He's
very
one of those.
tall man.
He's one
Very
of those
tall man.
guys that you always feel like when you're talking to them, you feel as if you've been in your lounge and they've opened up the roof of your home and they're leaning in to kind of
Amazing.
like a Karl Mokaraka kind of figure.
Yeah. I saw him at Citizen Park last week, but I was too shy
At the
to
pub?
say hello. Yeah, I was at a farewell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was there, not at the same farewell, just at Citizen Park.
He was just at the pub.
And we were like, "Oh my God, there's Bernard Hickey! Oh my God, don't look, there's Bernard Hickey!"
You should have
Should
talked
we
to
say
him.
hello? No, we're too shy.
Did he seem quite tall?
He didn't seem tall. That's why I'm so surprised you said that. But to be fair, he was seated, or as they say in England, he was sat on a seat.
Thank you. That's just for the British viewers, a little bit of translation services from Annabelle Lee Mather. At 7 o'clock, we're going to really loosen the nuts on the wheels of this podcast.
Yeah.
For an hour of Gone by Lunchtime versus Real Pod. Do you want to come to that, Ben? Because you love
I
Real
can't.
Pod.
Yeah, I saw that on the schedule and I was like, "What the fuck?"
What's Jane Yee up to?
I,
Jane Yee, what are you up to?
Jane,
You are just away. You don't.
no,
need
you
to,
don't do anything subtle. This is
You
this
get
is the,
right
this
in
is the
there,
raw,
give it a
unvarnished
shake,
product.
move it around, repo.
as Todd Scott would put it, it's raw and
Perfect.
real.
It's raw.
Raw and real.
Toby's gonna like tackle you on the way out of the room. That Duncan Greaves interview with Todd Scott, who Todd was the marketing guy at NBR when I worked there.
This is the current owner
and
of NBR.
then he graduated sort of being the owner and visionary, and he did a lot of really good things. You know, he was investing in journalism at a time when nobody else was, and you know, did some really good things. But holy heck, an eccentric character, you know, to put it mildly. And now calling for a review of the Crimes Act on citizens' arrests.
Yeah.
Oh, that dude.
He's
Yeah,
the guy
yeah.
who tackled to the ground
Yeah.
and started shouting citizens arrest.
That's so cool.
in the downtown countdown. and then sort of talk to all the media about how outrageous it was that the police didn't immediately race there and A, arrest the man, and B, award him with the world's biggest trophy for being a citizen.
Former Young Butcher of the Year, which I think is actually that's an accolade that I think he has in common with Northcote National Party candidate Dan Bidwar.
What?
A lot of great careers have been launched by being the best young butcher in New Zealand.
Wasn't Graham Hart?
He was a butcher, but I don't know if he was a prize-winning butcher, which is probably why he had to go into sort of finance and business.
Yeah.
I think this is a TV idea, Bells.
So the thing is, if you're a really good butcher, you go into entertainment and politics because, you're well known. You've got that kind of behind you.
Dan Bidwar doesn't strike me as a butcher type.
He is a butcher. I think after he finished university, he was a McKinsey type. So, he's really covered the range, I think.
Wasn't he a butcher and then he went to uni?
He was a butcher, then he went to uni.
And then he went to Harvard.
He went to then he went to Harvard, then he went to McKinsey. And
that dude is like overachiever.
And are you touching on Northcote at all in your hot seats?
Yeah, could be.
I'd like to hear about Northcote because
Me too.
I would have thought that would be an easy swing back to national. I'm hearing whispers, maybe not
really?
Quite as easy. So, well, yeah, and Bidwar, very hard-working candidates. As we've said, fantastic CV, fantastic story. So I'd be interested to hear any intel that anyone has on that.
Are you hearing there's been polling done to that effect?
No. Just the mood on the ground kind of thing. So. Who knows?
I think Shannon's worked hard in that electorate too. It's interesting to see these two young Tāne Māori kind of slugging it out in an electorate like that you don't really consider as having much of a Māori presence. But there is
Northcote.
There's actually heaps of Māori in Northcote.
Northcote takes in Beachhaven, which is the Otara of the shore.
Yeah.
So,
but if you're not from the shore, you don't know that. You just think of it as being like shore boys.
So that Real Pod Hour will also do a bit of a remember when. We might talk about the worm. Remember the worm?
Yes.
I remember the worm.
Do you have fond memories of the worm?
The worm was the perfect symbol of our age, which is, what do you think of not just the sentence, the word that the politician is saying right now? There is no future, there is no past, there is no context. It's like, react to the word, the syllable in front of you right now. And so Peter Dunn just said common sense, sensible, and rode that to I think about 8 seats in Parliament. I mean,
that's right.
Honestly ridiculous, but truly the gimmick of our time.
And kind of like, funny and stuff, but also disturbing because it shows like just how powerful the media can be and kind of creating electoral outcomes, even if unintended.
Are we segueing here? Or are we segueing into talking about the debate?
Maybe we should just cut straight to 7 p.m.
I think this is smooth.
Wait, let's go. What's happening?
I think this is a smooth segue.
Okay. No, we're doing this live. He can't edit our libels and swears out. This is. Let me just say, the last hour then is back to the classic. Ben, Annabelle, and me.
Potentially.
No, you're obliged. You're obliged.
I've got but.
Is anybody
I might
available
have to bring the kids.
to babysit for
Bring the
Annabelle
kids. We'll bring the
tonight?
kids.
Bring the kids.
There's a green room
The
out
kids
there.
are welcome. It's all
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, there's heaps.
What, 7 to 8? Okay.
8 to 9.
Sorry.
8 to 9. 8 to 9.
8 to 9?
Yeah.
8 to 9.
I thought it was 7 to 8.
How old's Waimahia Rose now? She'll
be 6 next week.
That's fine. That's good.
Okay.
She's an election baby. This is Waimahia Rose season.
Yeah.
So
Waimahia Rose was
She's
born
the
on this
reason for the
podcast.
season. She
That's
was. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a
It's
hell of an
true.
episode.
It was.
That was it.
Especially for me.
that was the one after the debate, eh? No, after the
It was
election.
literally the one that we did straight after the election.
Yeah.
I think was the election on the 25th and she was born on the 27th. Something like that.
Yeah, amazing.
That was that's right. All those stairs at the spin-off.
Yes.
Kind of
Brought me into labour.
Yeah, brought you into labour.
Had to walk 3 stories.
And new life
flights.
emerged as a result.
Yeah.
And then I think about 4 weeks later, after Winston Peters had formed the government, we assembled for another quickfire pod. I had just had my tonsils out, and I had been advised not to speak for 3 days. But I said no. The people need reckons. The people need to hear. And then a couple of days later, I had to go back to the emergency ward because my throat was bleeding profusely.
Great times. Just the best times.
I love to see that ACC form. Had to podcast.
So, our election season podcasts really do herald the dawn of a few new ages. You know, they're a real,
and have a strong connection to the health system as well.
Yeah.
Dawns, dusks, and danger.
This is good. We're only 36 more minutes to.
This is the content people have been hanging out for this election.
Yeah, I wonder if this is working if you're listening to this afterwards on the podcast. I think it probably is.
Tahi, what's the counter?
How many thousands?
We're looking at 129.
129!
Wow.
Doubled.
Stuart Salmon-Lunder is going to pop in from time to time across the course of the day to update us with news.
Terrific.
Bits of news as it happens. I think he's going to...
Are you just locked in here? You're not able to leave?
No, I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere. I think Stuart's gone to see Christopher Luxon at a goat farm this morning.
Oh, great.
Which is just classic campaign content, isn't it? Christopher Luxon with a goat.
Yeah. I mean, so, look, the yaks turned around Simon Bridges' whole sort of persona. Luxon is, basically we've segued now, right, into the debate.
We should have got
But can I just say, to be fair, I feel like this is more the season of the donkey than the goat. Donkeys are huge on Instagram at the moment. My feed is just full of donkey videos, and they're amazing. So just a little heads up to Luxon's team, maybe try and get them along to a donkey farm.
Who needs the yak in their career, the kind of reprieve, the redemption?
I feel like Hipkins needs a yak at the moment.
Does Hipkins need a yak? Yeah.
Michael Woodhouse, he might need a yak.
Michael Woodhouse needs a yak, or a donkey.
Michael Wood actually might need a yak.
Michael Wood might. I'll ask him.
I mean, if
he needs a yak, or a donkey.
Just like Bridges, really, very good politician. Hit some speed bumps.
I'm going to ask him about that.
I wonder what Bridges has done with his yak.
He's become a bit serious and boring lately, Simon Bridges. Do you remember when he was post Yak time when he was on this podcast? He hasn't come back on this podcast.
He's got his own podcast.
He doesn't reply to my texts anymore either.
Does he not?
He's probably watching. He's probably one of the 126 people watching.
Without a doubt.
I'm going to make a note here about ask Michael Wood about yaks.
And of course the most important thing, Stuart Nash currently up to 3,000 press-ups.
He needs a yak.
He's up to 3,000 press-ups by the end of the 12 hours. He'd
probably bench press his yak.
46,000 press-ups.
Right.
If he had a yak,
forgot to get a camera on that.
Definitely. We'll just send somebody to check periodically.
Are we getting amazing feedback? Are people writing complimentary posts about us? Is our content being shared?
I'll see how many people liked my tweet about the Megapod.
Good. You check that, Te Aihe.
The most recent comment was from Maka, who said, Ben Thomas, the hero we needed.
Oh. Or not need.
Beautiful.
Morgan Godfrey says, good luck, I think.
Okay.
That's basically a pledge of $50
why isn't Morgan Godfrey on this podcast?
Why isn't Morgan Godfrey on this podcast?
He's been keeping
his head down a bit lately, hasn't he? I think he's over it. I think he's... Because he was, you remember when he was about 15 years old and sort of speaking in these incredibly sophisticated sentences, so smart. And then he's like, well, I've done that now.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Morgan?
I think he's like...
Probably got less time now that he's finished school.
And he's got a baby and stuff.
He's got a baby, that's right.
He's got a beautiful papa.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, Morgan Godfrey, great guy, terrific guy. Ridiculous to think that he has a child.
Well,
he himself, such a...
He's a grown-up.
He was a baby not long ago, eh?
Once again, these deep existential philosophical thoughts.
But he's setting the path. He's going full yak. He says he's retiring after the election from political commentary.
Wow, really?
Full yak, yeah.
Wow. Do send us questions, because I don't know what we're going to talk about by the 8 to 9 hour, that last hour. Obviously, we've used up all of our yak material. Send questions in to me, Toby at thespinoff.co.nz. Or I guess they can put them in comments, I hear, or something like that. Is that a thing on YouTube?
I've got them.
Someone will harvest those. Love, that would be very helpful. You were keen, Annabelle, on would you rather questions.
Yeah.
Could you give an example of the kind of question you think that could generate interesting conversation?
You do one.
Oh.
You do it, would you rather?
No, you did one.
I did one, but I don't know if I could say that one.
I think can you?
I don't know, it might be controversial.
Okay, so you could say, for example, you could email and say, Annabelle Lee Mather, would you rather host the News Hub debate or be a marriage celebrant for Judith Collins?
100% marriage celebrant for Judith Collins.
Right. I think there are probably better would you rathers than that.
Yeah.
But you had a good one, but you can't, was there something in it that was a bit...
Put your suggestions for FMK in the YouTube comments.
What does FMK
and Toby
mean?
will get onto it.
What's FMK?
Fuck, marry, kill.
No, they're doing that on the Project TV show.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did they call it that?
They did Kiss, Hug and Murder or Kiss something. Same thing.
We're going to take it to the next level because it's the spinoff.co.nz. New Zealand's.
We're not going to do that.
New Zealand's
Most edgy.
We're New Zealand's leading political podcast for the youth, helmed entirely by 40-somethings.
Okay, all right. Shush.
Sorry.
Debate. You were desperate to segue to the debate. Ben.
Go on then.
Was there something particular you wanted to say about the debate?
Well, I mean, I just assumed that we might sort of touch on it. I
just thought that you had some, sizzling.
I've got a line.
Okay.
I thought of this when I was in the traffic on the way here.
Okay.
I was on Morning Report and I'd gone into the studio and I was trapped in New Zealand's infrastructure deficit. Getting to Morningside in time for this, and Gareth Hughes, who was on with me, the former Green Party MP, he's a really good commentator. I think he brings sort of a bunch of experience, but he's very sort of sanguine and sort of realistic about things. I really enjoy being on panels with him, but I think he said that going into the debate. Chris Hipkins really needed a kind of defibrillator moment, something to really kind of kickstart the heart of the campaign again. And at that moment, I thought, I needed a fucking defibrillator moment. Like by the time that Luxon and Hipkins both said that they recycled as the way of fighting climate change, I was like, my heart has stopped. Like my brain has decided that any energy spent on this is like a threat to my survival. I just need to shut it down, hibernate, like into like fucking brain death or a coma for a little while. Just excruciating, the debate.
Excruciating. Yeah, Luxon was embracing recycling. Chris Hipkins couldn't think of a book. Like no book. Not a single book was he able to think of.
Isn't that amazing?
But Luxon couldn't name a leader that had worked under. Which leader have you learned the most from?
Sort of someone at Unilever.
The book thing is so interesting, right? Because traditionally in the United Kingdom, where they have that kind of Oxbridge kind of Etonian sort of tradition. Up until really recently, it was sort of expected that if you were to become the Prime Minister, you had to write a book ahead of time. David Cameron, who, when he was a sort of, callow 40-something former political staffer, he actually had to rush out a book before he sort of sought to get the Conservative leadership because it was sort of seen as a kind of sine non qua. Like if you hadn't authored a book about leadership or historical figures or, as is current right now, the Roman Empire, you just weren't qualified to be a political leader. Our Prime Minister can't even remember a book he's read in his entire life. Because your favorite book, it's kind of a thing by default. Like if you've only read one, if all you've ever read is like The Hungry Caterpillar to your kids, that's your favorite book, right? It may not be a great book, but it's still your favorite.
He read a book at I was in a kindergarten in Wellington. He was reading a book.
That question first.
Luxon answered it first, and he gave in a stunning win for Matthew Hooton. He named this fatuous-sounding self-help book, which is about the inner mind of a tennis player.
Yeah.
And it was like applying tennis pros' insights to success in business.
So I feel like the way
the honesty of that, right?
I feel like the way each other, like whoever went first, kind of set the tone for the other ones. So when Luxon said what I've read lately is, and then I feel like Hipkins was like, oh, what have I read lately?
Right.
Cabinet papers. So I feel like that's what happened.
I think you're right.
With
I
that
think that's what
question.
happened. But it did also, the question was, what's your favourite book? And he said, I haven't read anything lately, which is like, I've not read any books, unfortunately. I've been busy since I had some books read to me when I was a child, but since then, I've been preparing for office.
The Tawny Scrawny Lion, which always reminds me of Winston Peters.
It is funny because, you know,
Gruffalo.
there are some people in politics and you see that they had I can relate to them, and you can see that they were sort of kind of, you know, nerds or invested in pop culture or whatever when they were growing, you know, in their teens and 20s. You know, like Barack Obama has spent his whole life preparing to be asked what's his favourite book, what's his favourite CD, you know.
He continues to answer that
He
question.
continues to answer it every summer
year.
unprompted, you know. And I think Grant Robertson is sort of the same, you know. He's always sort of, he'll bust out Flying Nun or something like that. But it's interesting that neither Hipkins nor Luxon is just sort of, is that kind of person. You know, Luxon obviously just sees books as basically grist. You know, their inputs, their inputs into your product. Hipkins may or may not have ever encountered a book. We don't know. It's like, I mean, he did grow up in the hut, I suppose. Maybe that's a bit of sort of added authenticity. But
You're mean.
When you're
but what was the second thing you were talking about? The
leadership.
Yeah.
I've got a theory on that. I reckon the reason Luxon didn't name who his... I don't understand why he didn't say, look, he hasn't been my leader, but John Key is someone whose leadership I really admire and
That's
get
a good answer.
that connection going. But when he basically kind of fudged it a little bit and wouldn't name a leader, I reckon it's because he was worried that people would start Googling and be like, oh, that guy, he's the guy that, like, you know, fired 5,000 staff in a restructure.
Yeah, he's been so burned by people who are number 52
Yep.
on the list being exposed for their past social media activity. He doesn't want to name someone that he used to work with.
Someone who's like a corporate hatchet.
Who knows?
Laid off 10,000 people or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually think that's probably right. Yeah.
My impression of the debate overall was that by the end of it, Chris Hipkins had got to the point at which he had reached the energy and the kind of level of momentum and engagement that if he'd started the debate with that, he could have done quite well. But I was in the studio and they were very friendly. They sort of shook hands.
Oh, were you
looked a bit
there?
Nervous. I was there. Yep.
Oh, you kept that quiet. I didn't know you were there.
Well, I mean,
What a fancy
I'm
guy.
surprised you didn't see me on the cutaways to the audience.
I didn't. I
Looking
could
sort
see
of
Mark
engaged.
Jennings, though.
Okay. Yeah, Mark Jennings was there also. It was very, very, very cheerful compared to other times I've been in the studio, and you sort of feel a little bit more, not animals prowling around each other, but a little bit of frisance or something. There wasn't really much of that. They were quite cheerful. They were having a chat. Chris Hipkins made a joke about when they're getting their makeup done, about the amount of surface area that was needed to cover on Chris Luxon, and that was a bit ho ho ho, and everyone had a nice he he he. And then they got into it, and then it seems to me that Hipkins, the big vulnerability, as we know, for National is about this, how they pay for this foreign property buyer, whether the numbers add up on the foreign property buyer tax. You know, now that may not have found its way into the national consciousness yet, but it is still. Neither had Show Me the Money in John Key times. It sort of slipped by, and then I think Chris Hipkins went, "Oh fuck, that was it." Did I miss that? It was in the first section. Chris Luxon went back.
It was unbelievably short, though. It was a very small window,
It
wasn't it? I was surprised by that.
It might have gone on, and Luxon's response was, which I think was quite, tactically quite good, was always to counterpunch with
Go back, GST.
fresh fruit and GST,
and
fresh fruit and
that's
GST.
why this debate, the expectation was probably always a bit high on Hipkins that he was going to sort of land a knockout on that, because we've seen Luxon on the ropes about it, on Q&A. I was in the green room in The Nation on Saturday. It seemed like about an hour and a half of sort of questions from Rebecca Wright about it to Luxon.
Stand up after stand up
stand
after
up after stand up. Very difficult,
confrontational
situations where, Luxon, either to his credit or to his eternal damnation, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on, or how you see politics, just sticking to the line. in a debate, you're never going to get 20 minutes on that one thing and just that repetition and repetition. And also, look, Luxon can't fire back at Jack Tame. Well, what about your failure to deliver?
Yep.
He's just got to sit there and take it. In a debate, he can immediately say, well, better than a couple of cents off beans and carrots or whatever, and which he did, and then proved it by saying it many times. It was almost like those...
I think the challenge that Hipkins had going into that, this is what, I'm wondering about what the advice is to Hipkins, because, we all expected that Hipkins was going to be the far stronger performer out of the two. And it's something, too, that Luxon kind of played up with the whole, I've never debated before. Oh, my God.
I don't even know what
it's hard.
debate
How do I do
is.
it? I don't know. And so I do
What
wonder...
is this place?
Yeah.
Who are these people?
What is talking?
Honestly,
I've just emerged from the womb.
Literally,
minute.
If you believed their self-assessments going into the debate, you would think that they would need full-time minders to stop them walking into broom closets or falling down a manhole on Hobson Street.
But I do wonder if perhaps the advice to Hipkins, because we know that, people are fickle and we don't like to see someone getting absolutely monstered. We don't like unseemly politics. We don't like seeing someone get picked on. And I do wonder, kind of a bit like in a court case where you have to show that someone's guilty but not completely vilify them, because then the jurors can sympathise with them. If that's sort of the mindset that Labour had going in, land your punches but don't go too hard.
I think that's a great point.
Because then you look like a bully. And I feel like perhaps at the start, the sort of tentative approach that Hipkins had may have been a reflection of that. And then I think as he started to realise that Hipkins actually does know how to debate, Luxon does know how to debate, and that he was holding his own. Yeah. I think he started to realise that he needed to start.
He was on the ropes. He was Muhammad Ali.
It's also,
I heard you could hit hard, George.
It's also Chris Hipkins is a very experienced debater in Parliament.
Yeah.
And if he brought his Parliament debating game to that television event, he would, as you say, look like some monstrous, you take any one of those debaters in Parliament out of the context of Parliament, they just look like wildly bellicose freaks. And that is not going to play.
Yeah.
And you need to, it's TV acting, right? You'd work in TV. It's different to stage acting.
And the thing too is you also have to be mindful of the presenter, and that you're in the presenter's space, and that you're not constantly rolling over the top of them. And also, you expect that the presenter's going to pull up, the debaters when there's something said that's not factual and that sort of stuff. So it's not an easy space to be in.
Having said that, Ben, and you're right that he can chuck the beans and carrots, and you're right, Annabelle, that he didn't want to go too hard. But it didn't seem to me like he had a particularly pre-cooked line for that subject, the foreign buyers tax thing, at all. And I just thought...
Who didn't? Hipkins?
And I thought, isn't that the moment when you pivot? You don't have to litigate everything through that V-shape, through Jessica Mutch Mackay. You turn, as he did towards the end of the debate, you turn and you say, hey, listen, I want to ask you something. This is not the kind of budgeting kind of fiscal responsibility that we would see from Bill English. Why are you not being transparent with the New Zealand public about your numbers for blah, blah, blah? It just you change the dynamic, you ask the question directly, and then see what happens. And that he did that on whether or not landlords would pass through.
Yeah, I think that's when he started to fire up, and he probably got some better shots in over the foreign buyers taxes when it got to that landlord segment, and he talked more about, the need to build our way out of the housing crisis, whereas Luxon just wants to sell all our houses to foreign buyers. Perhaps those things needed to happen earlier in the debate. I think he'll perform different next time, with that in mind, having seen Luxon's mettle.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBit.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I cordial with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Interesting, a few other interesting notes. For example, interesting to learn that By Māori for Māori was an invention by the National Party.
I know. Amazing.
That was good.
Here I was thinking that By Māori for Māori was By Māori for Māori, but no, it's By National for
By
Māori.
Māori.
By National for National By Māori. Amazing.
What I thought was interesting about that segment, and I'm going to just roll in the sort of health stuff about Pacifica and Māori on waiting lists as well. I thought that Hipkins gave the best articulation and the best explanation of those issues that he has given since becoming Prime Minister, and actually that anyone in his government has given. And it's a real shame that it's less than 4 weeks before an election before they actually managed to say that in a cogent way.
Completely agree.
Luxon, tried to kind of, I think, demonstrate that, he's not out there on this sort of mad kind of act tangent about rewriting the treaty or the principles of the treaty. He talked about how he's been visiting iwi, about how they share certain goals in terms of devolution and localism, which is, all true. I think both of them got into a slight tangle talking about the Māori Health Authority and this idea of two separate systems, which isn't true under any case. Yeah. And I think they both got confused, and then Hipkins got confused by sort of accepting Luxon's logic but then challenging him on it, which I think just confused issues further. And I think that Luxon started for the first time to give a good account of the way that he would see his government working with Māori, which is much more in that devolution space, working with Māori providers, working with iwi, and not so much through the institutions of government, like a Māori Health Authority. And then he did, slightly blot the copybook by saying the national invented by Māori for Māori, by which I think he was sort of trying to lay claim to, that national heritage, which is it was the National Party who, in government introduced the Kāinga movement.
They didn't introduce the Kāinga movement. They allowed for it and they funded it, right? And in a similar way, treaty settlements, that historical process started under a national government. But the Waitangi Tribunal was set up under Labour. That was Maturata's.
It was, but it was it the national government that allowed historical claims? Might not have been, can't remember. But also, whānau order, for instance, in terms, was set up under a national government, Māori Party initiative, but set up under a national government.
That's why I found it so weird when Luxon started rolling the coalition of chaos line and saying, you guys are going to get into government with Te Pāti Māori. It's like those things that you just claimed were successes by national for Māori by Māori were actually things that happened when you were in a co-governance, if you will, relationship with Te Pāti Māori.
Oh, absolutely. But then, of course, Chris Hipkins sort of standing up there fulminating. The first time he came alive was say, any government that includes Winston Peters is a government of chaos.
Yeah, I thought he was strong on that as well.
I mean, it really, get the worm in there because it really is, the no past, no present debate. It was just, ultimately it was a pretty superficial debate, I think.
Let's move on from the debate then quickly and talk about the Te Tai Hauāuru poll that came out.
Oh yeah, let me bring up the numbers of the line caller.
Peke Mason got 34% for the Labour Party candidate who replaces Adrian Rurafi, who is going on the list. He's the speaker now. Debbie Ngārewa Paka, the co-leader of the Te Pāti Māori, is on 29%. Haere Te Hepango, the national candidate, first time national, has stood in Māori seats for a long time, couple of decades maybe.
Yeah.
She is on, former Whanganui MP, she's on 12%. Quite a lot of undecided, 16% undecided. Annabelle, your assessment?
I think a lot of people will be surprised that Soraya Peke Mason is ahead of Debbie Ngārewa Packer. I think, most of us thought, given, how well Debbie's done over the last 3 years in her leadership, and it was close last time and all of those things.
Yeah.
But I think what we're seeing in the Māori seats is for Māori who actually vote, they're seeing the numbers that are coming through in the polls, and they're worried about what an ACT national government is going to mean to them, and so they're drifting back to Labour. So that's one part of it. And then, when we look at Harete's percentage, 12%, which is, quite
surprisingly high.
It's surprisingly high. I think that's where we're seeing Te Pāti Māori and the Māori party's vote fracture, because as we know, Harete has been endorsed by Tariana.
Yeah.
And so I think those old Māori party supporters, following Tariana's call, and that has split part of what you would expect to be Deb's vote off. What I find fascinating about this poll is the party vote. Labour 34, Te Pāti Māori 22, National 13, New Zealand First 7%. When I first saw that, I was like, that is so strange, given the comments that that Winston Peters has been making this election. But actually, when you think about it, I reckon what that is probably anti-vax support.
Well, I heard an interview. This is one Vox Pop, so it's one data point on RNZ. They were talking to someone out in Gisborne Way, and the dude was running a shop, and he said he was very unhappy with the way things were, and he was unsure, and he was trying to decide between Te Pāti Māori and New Zealand First. And there is that sort of
New Zealand First have always
they've done well in Māori seats before, right?
I know they've done well in the Māori seats. Don't get me wrong, I realise that, but I'm surprised that given the rhetoric of Peters over the course of this campaign, and that he hasn't been in Parliament for the last 3 years, I'm surprised that it would be at 7% in Te Tai Hauāuru.
But yeah, I mean, this isn't the first. The Peters is not new to sort of treaty bashing, and I mean, he's been running on that rewrite the principles of the treaty or delete the principles of the treaty for years now, so going back to sort of 2002. So, Peters would say, well, of course, it's sort of the real Māori on the ground, the ones with the workers, not the shiny bums in Wellington or whatever, So
there's also Shane Jones doing the rhetoric of, when I see the boys sitting outside the bar, I say to them, you've got to go and get some, there's that
cousin, the nephews on the couch.
On the nefs. The nefs, yeah.
There's some interesting stuff happening in that seat too, because
ambassador to the South Pacific on fisheries.
Oh my God, stop everything. Jane's just brought Ben a Mountain Dew. Oh, wow. Look at that.
My favourite podcast
Thank
manager.
you, Auntie Jane. By the way, Brad says hi. Hi, Brad. There's some interesting interpersonal politics happening in that seat too, because as we know, Adrian Dudafe is not standing, but his support crew in that rohe, I understand, have decided not to get in and support Soraya's campaign. So I think she's going to be delighted with that result, because she's kind of having to start from scratch in terms of building up her electorate resource and all of that kind of thing. But, she's a rātana lady, and, there's a lot of strength still in the rātana movement in Te Tai Hauāuru.
Worth saying as well, and you've before run shows that have commissioned polling on the Māori electorates. Really hard to poll. Such a vast terrain to cover.
Yeah.
And you're looking for people, a minority who are on a particular role in that area.
Well, the thing that makes it hard is because, the population base is so low. So trying to get, and hard to reach. So trying to get weighted polls where you've got enough of a base for it to be credible. Like, I mean, if you're only polling 100 people, age spread, all of that, and, you could do 100 people and it'd probably be reflective, but you don't have mana in the media if your sample is that size. So trying to get like 500 or 1,000 people within the normal time frame is so incredibly hard that actually quite often when you poll a Māori electorate, by the time you get to the end of it, it's taken longer and a lot's happened politically in that time. So notoriously hard to poll, but I'm interested to see how Whakaata Māori's poll results compare to election night. And great Māori debates happening on the hui and on Whakaata Māori, presented by my friend Tina Whitcliffe, former Press Gallery reporter. And
great journo.
Yep, amazing journo. And on 3 with Julia Wilcox.
And some really good leader interviews and senior politician interviews happening on the podcast Mata as well.
Yes, we've been doing a series of interviews with leaders. We've had Hipkins so far, Marama Davidson. We've got David Seymour next week. And fingers and toes crossed that the National Party, if you're listening, are going to give us an interview with Chris Hipkins before the election. I know that.
I don't think the National Party is going to give an interview with Chris Hipkins. But look, maybe, who knows?
Luxon.
They're basically in a job share situation based on that. The debate last night.
My apologies, Chris Luxon. You might have seen on Twitter this week, Moana Maniapoto tweeted that her program, Te Ao with Moana, have not been able to get an interview with Hipkins before the election. So hopefully...
Luxon also been trying here. Hey, before we go, last thing.
I'm just going to call them Chris because then there's a lower likelihood of me screwing it up. I'm sorry.
Hey, before we go, I've got these questions I'm going to ask everyone over the course of today.
Are we done?
Nearly there.
Oh.
Nearly
7 minutes.
Amazing.
Got 7 minutes. So the first one.
Yeah.
Going to run a sort of sweepstake. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. But asking everyone to predict the turnout of this election, which is obviously, I think, going to be quite important, quite interesting. The person who gets it closest wins a box of chocolate fish. A box of chocolate fish.
I don't really like chocolate fish.
Oh. What would you like the price to be?
Peanut slaps.
Okay. So some background. 2011 turnout was 74.2. 2014 77.9. 2017 79.8. 2020 82.2. What will it be in 2023, Ben?
88.2.
82.2. Did I say 88.2?
Sorry,
82.2 in 2023.
Is that across all the electorates?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
really high.
so much higher than
75 on the dot.
Oh, 75.0. Bells?
I'm gonna go with 78.
78 on the dot. You don't want a decimal, anything in there? You're just gonna
go 0.3.
No, affectation. This isn't pitchfork.
Ben, what's your political TV show of choice? Like, you know, if in the world of West Wing or Thick of It, House Cards, Veep, all those things. What's the?
I'm just going to replay this on YouTube.
The live stream
over and over again. No, my favourite political show, probably The Thick of It.
Thick of It.
Yeah, I return to that a lot.
Okay. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Bells?
You know, I'm not, having grown up in a house with 2 politicians, I'm really not drawn to watching political drama, to be honest. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And finally, we're running a Mojo meter through the course of the day. Christopher Luxon has talked about Mojo a lot in this election. I'm already getting a croak in my voice. That's a really encouraging sign. He says New Zealand has lost its mojo.
The political podcasts are sometimes associated with throat bleeding, so you need to take these symptoms seriously.
God. Yeah,
Get an ACC form ready for them.
Well, it's good. It'd be good for publicity purposes.
To be fair, with the waitlist times at ERs, you could probably knock off the rest of the 12 hours before they saw you, so it's fine.
Ben, how would you rate your personal mojo at this point? And on a scale from 0, which means you've completely lost your mojo, it's all gone, to 10, which is mean you're absolutely overflowing with mojo. You need a mop to soak it up.
Look, probably about a 3 or a 4. I got some emergency mojo shots into my heart after the conclusion of the leaders' debate yesterday, when I had fallen into a coma. But yeah, 3 to 4, hoping that good living, clean diet will help me to get up to 4.5 before election day.
Good luck.
My mojo's low at the... Can I say mojo?
Mojo. That's good.
Do you like that?
Mon mojo.
My mojo
Oui.
is quite low at the moment. It's low.
Okay.
a lot of the rhetoric around race relations and, proposed referendums about the treaty and, the yes vote in Australia, it's got me feeling low. It's got me down.
So, from 0 to 10?
I'd say I'm about, how much were you, Ben? I feel like I'm lower than you.
It was about 3, wasn't it?
He's 3.5.
I'm like a 2.7.
2.7 on the...
I'd like to know where you got the mojo shots from, because I might book in.
Oh, I keep
them in my medicine cabinet next to the adrenochrome, just in case of emergency.
Next to the Invictin or whatever it's called.
Bit of adrenochrome, bit of Invictin, yeah. Good. Well, look, we'll see how your mojo is in a few hours from now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. 1 hour to go.
How many thousands? Wait, how many thousands?
What?
How many thousands are with us?
178.
Okay, it's gone up. It's continuing to go up.
It's a positive sign. So it's doubling every sort of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So by greater than the population of the Earth by the end of the 12 hours.
We are so beloved.
Although there is somebody who is expressing their disappointment that it's not just this for 12 hours.
Right, that's true.
That person sounds like they have incredibly
a real fan,
good
a
taste.
real connoisseur, a real politics head. We salute you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
All right. 1 hour down, 11 to go. In the next hour of Megapod from 10 a.m. or Megapod number 2, if you're listening to this in the future in podcast form, we'll have more on the Leaders Debate with Mad Chapman, Duncan Grieve and Rafiki Connell. Then at 10:30 a.m, Michael Wood, MP for Mount Roskill and until recently a senior Labour minister, is in the studio to discuss the campaign, the challenges faced by Tamaki Makaurau, whether or not he's going to get a yak. Thank you for joining us in the first hour.
Can you ask him, how you talked about the 70s super band, Nashwood and Allen?
Oh, yeah.
Can you ask... I'm really keen to listen. I'm going to download that album, and I just want you to ask, is that something that they might actually consider? Yes. And will they just be, because I don't want it to just be instrumental, I want
We've got a
harmonies.
callback in joke from our podcast from a number of months ago, and we just wanted to put it to you. What are your feelings about that?
Is it Alan Wood and Nash, or which order does it go in? Alan Wood and Nash, Wood and Alan Wood, Nash.
Right.
And, no, I think Alan Wood and Nash is the best way.
The progress is slowed. Stuart Nash up to 3,400 push-ups.
Okay, thank you.
So...
Oh, we've been played off.
We've been played off.
Oh my God, that was great. I didn't get it.
This is Climate Adaptation.
We are the Pōtiki of the Taiao.
And the words of those keeping the home fires burning.
It's more than just going along and planting some trees. You got to be able to defend that place to the end of your life.
We have the solutions. We just need to come back to the belief in ourselves as rangatira.
Join me, Nadine Hura, and Ruia Āpirehama, for Ko Papa Ko Rangi Series 2, Ahi Ka. Brought to you by Te Komatu o Te Tonga, the Deep South Challenge, out now on the Spin-Off Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spin-Off. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spin-Off member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spin-Off Podcast Network.